Hello guys, Tiffany Boyd for your children. I just hung up with Representative Richie, who had some updates for me to share with everyone. I want to thank everyone that was able to go to the meeting room today, 6C, or was it 6B? It was 6B where everyone was today. Representative Richie said that it was standing room only, and that Cameron Sexton, Speaker of the House, didn't come to the committee room. Chairman Mark White came and I guess spoke to several people that were there. Hello, Martha. So I wanted to jump on here to give you the updates because there's a lot of information that's circulating, and I asked him to clarify that information with us so that we could make sure that we had accurate information. So the very first thing is the Senate rolled this or sent this to the general sub, which is the summer study session. Now, there is some information circulating that it's dead in this. Well, it's not going to be brought back up again this session because it was sent to the summer study, but that's not necessarily true. He told me that the Senate can bring it out of summer study session. So it's not completely, there's, the way that he phrased it was they do have the option to do that, and they can do that. So just because it was sent to the summer study session does not mean that it's gone from the Senate until next year or next January when they reconvene. So we need to keep that in mind. The House did roll it 2 weeks to April the 5th. When when we reach April the 5th, they cannot defer it for another 2 weeks. They've already deferred it as many times as they can defer it, so they can't do that again. So what will happen I'm reading, that's the reason why I'm looking down. What will happen on the 5th, there's 3 options. So the first option is they can send it to summer study. The second option is the Speaker, because it's his bill, so Cameron Sexton can present it to try to get the bill passed, and then they will vote, and it can either be passed or the actual committee will send it to summer study, or it will be killed at that point. So there's 3 options if he presents it. There's 3 different things that can happen from that. Or the Speaker could actually decide to roll it to the heel of the calendar, which would mean it would move it to April the 12th. So they wouldn't be able to defer it 2 weeks, but that would give them another week. So that's 3 different options there that could happen on April the 5th. We won't know what's going to happen until that committee meeting because it won't be public. So we'll have to attend that meeting. He suggested that all of us make sure that we keep up the pressure. He said that the Senate sending it to the summer study session, it could mean a lot of things. It could be posturing to make it look like they're doing something because so many of us have spoken out, and there were lots of people there today and lots of people planning on coming. So it's really important that we keep the pressure on them. We need to step it up. We need to step up our game and put even more pressure on them to kill this bill. Now, there were no amendments, and here's something that he clarified for me, and I'm glad he brought this up because this was new information to me. The Senate bill that was going to be voted on today, it's the same bill, but it was in the Senate portion. There were no amendments to that bill. So it was the original terrible one with the 13-page amendment, the one that still had the wording in there that threatened our homeschool freedoms. That wording was still in that particular bill that particular amendment that they would have been voting on in the Senate today. So that one was still the original 13-page amendment. Now, the one that they're going to be voting on in the House has the 2 different amendments that I told you about. There's one that's a 10-page amendment, and that's the one in the previous video where I went through and I went through all the bullet points of concerns that I had with that 10-page amendment. And then there's an add-on, which is another 6 pages that is added on to this. So essentially this is longer. This is actually a 16-page amendment when you combine the two, but they're two separate. They're two separate things. They're two separate amendments. So now it's 16 pages instead of 13. So what everyone needs to understand with amendments is just because they're introduced does not mean that they're going to be passed. And so it's really important that we keep up the pressure. The bill needs to die. I've reiterated that over and over again. I'm going to continue to reiterate that. Do not think that just because the Senate sent it to General Sub that it's gone and it won't be brought back until next session next year, because it can be recalled this cycle. The problem is that the Speaker of the House and the Lieutenant Governor get to decide which bills come back out and which bills go to which committees, and they're the sponsors of the bill. So that's what makes this really, really sticky. So don't assume that we have accomplished everything that we've set out to accomplish, because that's not true. And there's some small victories here that I'm proud of. I'm mainly proud that homeschoolers and families in the state of Tennessee are standing up, and that they took this seriously enough. They followed through. They did what they said they were going to do. They made phone calls. They sent emails. They came in person. We have to keep that up. So I'm going to encourage everyone to now laser focus on the House Education Administration Committee, okay? Start calling. If you want to go back and watch the live that I did where I specifically pointed out things that were very concerning about this, the new amendments that they have, you can use some of those points when you speak to them. Don't settle for a voicemail this time. Specifically ask for your representative to call you back so that you can tell them that you are requesting the bill to be killed. Continue. We need to launch a full-on campaign now to make this thing go away. It needs to die, and we need to get them to understand that that's what we want to happen with this. Are there any questions? I'll try to answer as I can. Connection problems again. Sorry about that. There are still some really sneaky things that they can do to get this snuck through. So we specifically need to be keeping a really close eye on this. He went through several scenarios with me as to how they could manipulate this and run it through in about 8 days. And so we've got to really be vigilant and make sure that they don't try to get this rammed through. They know that the pressure is on them, and that's one of the reasons I feel like why they did what they did with the House bill today, because they knew that lots of us were coming. And so Representative Ritchie made an interesting point. He said that when Chairman White came into the room to discuss some things, he kind of made a statement regarding something that he said that was in the amendment that wasn't in the new amendment. And so that's the problem here. The problem is that this is being pushed through so fast that we need, it needs to die, because the wording, it's just a very, in my opinion, it's just a really bad bill. It's just trash. It needs to go away. It has a lot of things in it that I discussed earlier that I do not agree with in any way, shape, or form. But when you move things through so quickly, sometimes you're told it says things that it doesn't necessarily say. And it was a good reminder for me to know that what they were voting on in the Senate today was the original 13 pages that we were so angry about, because it specifically targeted homeschool families in the state of Tennessee. So lots of things going on with this bill, and we have to do our job and just laser focus and double down now on the House Education Administration Committee and make more phone calls, make sure we're all there on April the 5th. We have the conference room reserved for April the 5th. I think it's room 5C. Let me see if I have it written down here. I think that's yes, 5C. So Representative Ritchie has reserved meeting room 5C in Cordell Hall from 10:30 to 1 o'clock on April the 5th. For us, the same scenario that was supposed to happen today and did happen for those of you who were already there or stayed for the Senate meeting and had the opportunity at 11 to meet some of the committee members. How many, if you're on here and you were one of those families that was there in the meeting room, how many committee members came in and visited? I know that Representative Ritchie was there because he's the one that reserved the room. And I know Chairman White came, so I know 2 were there. Does anyone, who else? Anyone else know any of the other committee members, the representatives that came in to the room today? It did make an impact. All of this is making an impact, from the phone calls to the emails to seeing families there in person. It really is impactful when they have to look at the people that they're actually trying to pass legislation and they're seeing the people that it's going to affect. It makes a statement. So we have to keep up what we're doing. Yes, there were 3 total. Okay, so that would have been Chairman White, Representative Ritchie. Who was the 3rd one, Denise? Do you know? Can't remember the 3rd. That's okay. So there were 3 of the committee members that came to meet with the families that were there. So does anyone have any questions? But again, just because it was sent to the summer study session by the Senate does not mean that it's necessarily gone for this year. And, I think that's what they want us to think. But it was confirmed that it can be brought out. It can be brought back up this year. He was in full support of homeschooling and parental choice. The 3rd one that was there, Denise? Slater. Okay. Representative Slater. All right. So that's the update. Again, I made notes. I'm looking back through them to make sure that I didn't miss anything. I think I told everyone everything in a nutshell that Representative Ritchie shared with me. So, again, to reiterate, when we're there in the House Education Administration Committee meeting on the 5th, there will be 3 things that will happen or can happen. 3 options. The speaker will either, or the sponsor of the bill, which is he has been dynamite through this whole process, Denise. She's talking about Representative Ritchie. He's the one that is reserving the conference rooms for us, and he has been absolutely phenomenal. He has kept open lines of communication with me throughout this whole entire process. We have spoken multiple times today. We've spoken multiple times since all of this started. He is definitely in agreement with us that he thinks that this bill needs to be killed, and he has advised multiple times for me to remind everyone to keep the pressure up. So April the 5th, when we go back, 3 things can happen. So it's Cameron Sexton's bill and the Lieutenant Governor's bill, but they're the sponsors. So the sponsor can recommend to send it to study session, to summer study, or he can roll it to the heel of the calendar, which means it would then move to April the 12th, or he can present it to the committee for passage. And then once it's presented to the committee for passage, it's no longer his bill, and then the committee gets to decide if they want to send it to summer study, or if they want to kill it, or if they want to advance it. So that's how that's going to work on April the 5th. Can everyone else hear me? Mindy's saying she can't hear me. Can you guys hear me? Okay, Jessica can hear me. So did everyone get that? Do I need to say that again about the 3 things that can happen on April the 5th? Okay. Do y'all need me to repeat that? I will, but if you've got it, then I won't go through it again. if you're watching live, just let me know if you understand the process of what will happen in the House Education Administration Committee on April the 5th. There's 3 options as to what could happen on April the 5th with this bill. Okay. So if you missed that, you can just replay the video. I talk about the 3 things that can happen on April the 5th with the bill. Does anyone have any questions that I'll hopefully try to answer? I think Representative Ritchie said if it gets rolled again, it's dead. Yeah, they can't, yes, they cannot defer it again. They won't be able to defer it. They have the 3 options. The sponsor will either have to say that he's just going to send it to summer study, or he will present it for passage, or he can roll it to the hill of the calendar. And Representative Ritchie said if he chooses to roll it to the hill of the calendar, it would bump it up. It would give him essentially 7 more days. But it can't be deferred for another 2 weeks, if that makes sense. And he said that he doesn't think that but that is an option. But it can't be deferred like it has already been done multiple times. So that's where we're at. So again, put the pressure on your Education Administration Committee, because that's where it will be next. And don't get comfortable thinking then it is done with it, because again, they can bring it back out if they choose to do so. It can be recalled this cycle. Yes, show up on the 5th. Absolutely. We have to have everyone there on the 5th. And of course, I'm on the agenda to testify for the 5th, because I was on the agenda to testify for today, and it just rolled forward. Another thing that we'll just keep a watch on is I think he said to keep a close watch next week, around this time next week, to see if the Senate's doing anything else with this bill Wednesday of next week. So I need everyone to help me keep a close watch on that too. It's important to have more than one set of eyes on this, and they need to know that we're watching this very, very carefully. But he just kept reiterating over and over that we must keep the pressure up. We have to keep the pressure on them. You know, there's a lot of sneaky things that can be done. Yes, everyone knew that you were there, and they also knew that lots and lots of us were planning on coming. So, you know, I'm glad that we are making an impact. So this is fantastic. I'm proud of our homeschool community. And, you know, something else I want to add as well is, now this is not just about the homeschooling community anymore. This is about parents in general. So, you know, just if you have people that you know that are not necessarily homeschooling, but they're parents, they should be concerned about this bill. I would be. Even if I wasn't homeschooling, I would still be very, very concerned about this bill. There are a lot of reasons that I addressed in the previous video as to why this bill needs to die. Even if you're not a parent, you should be extremely concerned about this bill. Yes, Jessica, absolutely. You should be concerned about this bill, because their intentions are to build these boarding charter schools in communities. So potentially your community could have one of these boarding charter schools built there, where you're going to have students that are living there that are on parole or probation. Is that something that you would want built in your neighborhood community? And I think the general public doesn't. This bill was really convoluted with a whole bunch of stuff thrown in all together, and it was just a mess. And, you know, that's the reason why I tried to pick it apart, the 16 pages. And you and your Board of Education, exactly, you do not have your local, this is out of, the local Board of Education has no control over these charter schools. And that is exactly why I penned my last month's article for the Borough Pulse that I wrote. It's titled, Charter Schools. Are charter schools the answer? And I tried to point all of this out. I did point all of this out in the article, and I tried to get people to understand that the problem with charter schools is they have very little oversight. So they are a perfect example of taxation without representation, because they appoint a charter school commission has been appointed, which means there's no elected folks on that commission. They're appointed. And then the governing body of these charter schools are appointed. So it's not like your local school board where people run for office and you get to elect as a taxpayer who you think the best person is to sit on that board. That's not how these charter schools are working. Those folks are appointed. So they're spending your money the way they see fit, and you have no input. You have no say-so with any of this. And I don't think the general public realizes that this is how this is going to work. Yes, and they can put any student that lives in the state of Tennessee can be put into a community charter school. Absolutely. I went through all of this in detail in the last video. We have no idea. We would have no idea where these students are coming from. They can come from anywhere. It's not like your local neighborhood school where you're supposed to live in the geographical location of your LEA, your local education agency, your local school. That's not how these charter schools work. They can put kids that are on parole and probation from anywhere into these schools in your community. And I will say that this isn't just specific. These issues are not just specific to this bill and this charter school. These are some of the problems with charter schools in general, and why I've spoken out in opposition to them. So does anyone else have any questions? They have to have lived in the state for 2 days to be able to be enrolled in this particular at-risk charter school. Yes. If you haven't read through the 16 pages, because it's 2 different links, it's a link for a 10-page amendment, and then it's a link for the 6 pages. Read through those, write down your concerns, so that when you make your phone calls to the to your representatives and to the folks that are sitting on the to the representatives that are actually on that Education Administration Committee, you will know exactly what you want to say to them. Do you think they're putting some of the immigrants that are coming over the border into the schools because there's been a lot of unaccompanied minors? That is a possibility. I mean, I'm not going to say yes or no, but I definitely say that I feel like personally, yes, that there's a possibility for that to happen. Absolutely. Yep, Denise. Yep, it's definitely a possibility. I agree. So read through all that verbiage and make a list of things that you're concerned about. If you want to hear what I had to say and the talking points that I was planning on addressing as I testified today before this was deferred for 2 weeks, you can listen to the previous video where I go into detail about my concerns and what I was going to address the commission about. But that's where we are now with all of this. But I have been seeing, comments that we don't have to worry about it in the Senate, that it's gone until next year. And Representative Ritchie said no, they could bring it back out. So we need to be aware of that and watch them very, very closely. Sneaky how they do these things, isn't it? They make it difficult. Hoping that we'll give up and throw in the towel and they can just do whatever they want to and pass it through. But guess what? They work for us. And we've made it our mission to hold their feet to the fire, so to speak, about this particular bill. And I'm sure many more bills that are going to be coming to the forefront in the future, because I think that this has been a really good learning process actually for all of us, because unfortunately, I'm just going to tell you that we need to get used to doing this, because you're going to be doing more of this in the future. Does anyone else have any other questions? So the event has been updated. Someone commented earlier and said that they could not access the amendments. There's a link posted in this event. You'll have to scroll through the discussion. If you click on discussion, you can scroll through and see everything that I have posted, and there's a link, and it goes through the details of how to register and how to pull up all of that. And it's probably now, it will be very helpful moving forward. I'm very thankful to our representatives who have helped us navigate this and who have kept us informed and in the loop, and really given us some excellent advice and provided spaces for us to meet. It's been really, we've had some really good positive feedback, and we have really learned. We've really learned through this the representatives that are on our side and are going to stand up for us, which is good to know. So that's where we are. Maybe we might get through a whole day where I don't have to come on here and give an update with new information. But if you have questions, again, share this wherever you feel like you need to share this. We still need to make sure that we have people involved and motivated and willing to. We're not at the end of this, is what I'm trying to say. We have not defeated this. We have to keep going, and now's the time to put even more pressure on. We have to really, like I said, laser focus on this and pick up the pace, because we need to do now more than ever. So I'm going to jump off here. I hope everyone has a great night. I hope this answered a lot of your questions. But if you watch this, if you go back and watch this video, if you're just jumping on, I went into detail explaining the 3 different things that could happen on April the 5th with this. So go back and listen to those 3 different scenarios that could happen. And also, Representative Ritchie asked me to clarify with everyone that just because the Senate sent it to the summer study session does not mean that it's gone away for this year. It could be recalled. It can be recalled this cycle. So I'm going to get off here. I hope everyone has a good night. And if you have more questions, I'll do my best to try to answer them. And I plan on writing about this experience and this bill. This will be my article for the Borough Pulse, which will come out in April. It will be my April article. So you guys have a good night. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. You are fantastic. Keep up the good work. And let's just get this done. Have a good night.